New Year.
Yeah, that's right. We just had a progression into a new age. Who
A
knows?
whole new life. Yes.
Things could just really blossom.
Yes, yes, yes. It's time for new and different things.
So
So
how would you had a whole holiday period? How'd it go?
it's been very nice. It's been very nice. I have a standing appointment every morning at 8 o'clock, and that hasn't happened for about 2 weeks. It's been wonderful.
Is is that humanity rising that you're
Yeah,
talking?
yeah, yeah. They're off until next week. Yeah. So, and then there's GRC. GRC's been doing usually 9 o'clock meetings, but now there's a couple that are starting at 8 o'clock. So, and they've been sort of low key also. So it's been nice.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, everyone needs a break from
Yeah.
time to
Yeah. 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 So how are you doing?
very well.
Good.
Must a little tired right now. I might leave a little bit early.
Okay.
Just didn't sleep that well last night. But other than that, I mean, I've been, let's just say everything seems to be in remission that I wanted to be in remission.
Nice. Nice.
That's one way to describe it.
Very good. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's a huge relief. Oh,
Yeah.
more than that, this the building inspection department for our DeKalb County suddenly decided out of I don't know where the ethers that they were going to start requiring um, a, a surveyor's stamp or an architect's stamp on the site plan. I always produce a cover sheet that lists all the sort of directional material and and the new work and sort of gives them a blocked out idea of what's going on. So DeKalb County has decided they want the surveyors to do the work. They want you to pay an extra $1,500.
Oh,
And so I called the client when I found out that that would be the price, the 1,500. And the client was willing to do that. So lets me off the hook trying to figure out how to handle that. So I'm actually feeling tremendous relief.
oh, that's just wow.
But it's, the great engine of progress.
Wow.
Oh, and by the way, I mean, it used to be that your cover sheet would be a nice, pretty picture of the building, the new building, and that's all. And then you would take a survey with you. And on the survey, you've penciled in where the addition's going to be on that sheet. And that's it. That would be acceptable up until in almost every jurisdiction up until a few years ago.
Really? Wow.
And now they're going batshit crazy is what I say. But I'm I'm glad to retire. I think this is really the moment
Yeah.
to let go.
Yeah, it's just yeah, you have to wonder. There's this mix of there needs to be some oversight, and yet how much is too much, and how do you manage that without it being
Yeah. And I have
stifling?
to admit that in large part, the sort of shock and anguish at having to deal with it that sort of clouds my vision of this transition. Um, it's just the worst part of it is simply not knowing. Suddenly, doing a project with the old process in mind and suddenly being hit with all this other stuff. It's just tangled.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, why would it be $1,500 for a stamp?
Oh, well, they're going to redraw the drawings. It'll come as a two drawing set from the
Oh,
from the um from the surveying company, and they will
oh,
draw so that they have already drawn the number one drawing, the as built, and they will draw the second drawing to show the new conditions. And so that the double sheet will be handed in with stamps. So it'll be a different product than what I had in mind.
is there an advantage to doing that? I mean, it would sound like it's clearer in some ways, but
Um, they're trying to cover all possibilities. So yes, there's an advantage that will come up maybe one time out of 10 or 20. I don't know what the average would be. 5% of the time, 10% of the time. But for the rest of it, it's just a hassle.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Well, are we expecting any friends today?
Well, yeah. I mean, Carl could come and I'm assuming Annie's coming. Maybe I'll ding her and see.
What
Or
subject do you want to cover today?
I was thinking about that and I hadn't quite got there. Um, well, let me send Annie a text. I don't know if she gets these or not. She's in the process of moving, so
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But on the other hand, she keeps saying that this is her favorite point in the week. So she may make
yeah,
adjustments so she can do that,
yeah,
be here.
yeah. I'm kind of concerned. It's going to be interesting. She's moving from a one bedroom into a studio,
Mm-hmm.
so that's a change. And she's trying to take her furniture, so her bed and living room stuff, and so that might be awkward. Um,
In other words, not fit.
yeah, and so she'll have to figure that out as she goes, and maybe even after she's there to make new changes. And
Yeah,
we talked a little bit about that, but it's hard to know what to not take until she really gets into the place. So it's kind of confusing. I mean, her apartment was full of boxes last time we talked last week. Um, and she
yeah,
has
I
to,
remember that. She showed us.
yeah. So, yeah. So we'll see. And I remember that she was there before. And she moved into this place probably because she wanted more room. So now she's going to be grateful for um, meals because they're included and the company and the ocean, but it's still a smaller living space.
Yeah.
So that might be an adjustment. Oh, there's Carl. We are busy working on things. My mouse just is. Uh,
Hi, Carl.
Hi, Robert.
Good morning, Carl.
Hi, Catherine.
Oh yeah, you two are still in the morning.
Yes, we
I'm
are.
telling you, it's going to be a great day because I'm 3 hours ahead of you, and you're doing just fine.
Well, that's it. I can I'll just go to bed now, knowing that the day is good.
That
Oh,
is an interesting concept, however, to my mind, that we can both be at different times in the same place. In
Yeah.
the electronic place, it's the same time, but it's different times.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really try to wrap your head around that, it gets a little confusing.
Well, especially when you start talking to Europe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or Australia, because it's the
Yeah.
same
Or
time, but
Australia.
one's AM, the other's PM.
Yeah. Or another day. It'll be another day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Um, at some point on I guess Tuesday, it could have been another year. We were
It's
talking
true
to.
enough. It's true enough. It's true enough.
Um, always the history. The looking for understanding history and to learn that the things that we just take for granted, it's hasn't been around forever. But there was the our time zones are only from 1920s, 1921.
Oh,
It was
well.
just another agreement that mostly guys made that rule our world that we think you um has just always been there, but it's not. And
Oh, yes. Ani just said she's not coming. She's in the middle of moving and really tired.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I imagine.
so the fun fact is, so if you were to take a train from New York to San Francisco in the 1800s, you would change your watch 250 times. I love that because it gives an insight to life before our organized time zones.
I was reading an article about the Scopes trial, 1925, I think it was, 100 years ago. Um, so there seemed to be a huge divide in the cultural works of things. But it turns out that there was nothing political about it, that it wasn't politicized except by Mencken, in his newspapers. But both of the lawyers, Darrow and what's his name, were friends, good friends, with some different ideas, yes, but they would dine together and joke together, and the whole trial was done out in a open lawn in front of the you know what do you call it, the trial.
The
uh,
resident?
no, the bill, I forget what you call it, where the trial would be held indoors, but there was too big a
In
crowd.
front of the courthouse.
Yeah, courthouse. So it was all held outside,
Oh,
and it was just a big picnic. Everyone, enjoying each other's company. And, sometimes Darrow would be grilling the other lawyer about some facts about the beginning of the earth and the age of the earth, or when Adam when Adam actually lost his rib so that women could be. I mean, you could see how that could be really funny. And evidently it was. No one came with, well, if they came with guns, because I guess you could do so then, but nobody shot anyone.
or threatened to.
Well, we don't have that on authority. They might have.
Oh,
Well, I'm guessing you're feeling the same way that today there's so much violence that there would have been shooting, that if it was something like that which happened today, it happens. The violence happens today, even without a highly dramatic trial.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting because we're not geared to thinking about systems. And so we really want to place blame. We want to make it somebody's fault. Some person did something to make this bad thing happen, whatever it is. And so often it's really not like that. Um, and it's just so frustrating because it gives you this elusive, you want to grab at the cause and you can't really touch it. it doesn't really exist any place, and yet you know it's wrong, you know it's not correct, and what do you do about that? That kind of frustration, I think, is really um, just so fundamental to so much of what is happening today. And it's been weaponized by the far right in so many ways just because nobody knows. Well, let's give them an excuse to be bad, just point them at somebody and it gives them a place to vent, place to release their feelings of frustration and stuff. As long as it's not at you, it's fine. Um, but it's just, yeah, sure makes things difficult when it's so subtle and you have to know so much in order to have an understanding that can't be easily simply explained. You just, yeah.
Well, currently, maybe the most difficult thing to explain, to understand even, but to explain in terms that we understand, is consciousness. I'm of the opinion that consciousness is everything,
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
more real, more solid than the various conglomerations of matter. You know, part of it makes up my body. That's different. That's a desk. But, conglomerations of matter can be seen as separate, but definitely consciousness can't.
Yeah.
It is a single entity, and we're all part of it.
Yeah.
And done a lot of thinking about that lately. If you want to talk about it today,
Yeah.
just
Well,
I'm just saying.
a friend shared a song that a friend of his had created, which is on YouTube, called Gaia. And it's just really lovely because she's speaking as Gaia and saying, I love you. I know you love me. And we just need you need to remember that that's true. And just be in that place. Listen to me when I say what I need. And it's just a very sweet song, very sweet song. And that sense of being part of is just so yearned for and so missing.
Well, the not necessarily ancient, but the from centuries ago, the Persian poets like Rumi
Hmm.
wouldn't, I mean, wouldn't hesitate to start a poem, my beloved,
Yeah.
meaning the earth, life. Um, Maybe
Right.
there's some semblance of a God character in there, but sometimes, but just my beloved,
Yeah.
this existence, my consciousness of this existence, which is,
Yeah.
I'm so embraced by and
Yeah.
can't avoid without dying. I mean, it's really something. And that was normal, I guess.
Yeah.
So many, it was a form that was used by so many.
Well, and so many of the devotional songs that come out of India are all about loving, and loving the panoply of gods. But each God is an aspect of life. And just being in relationship with that and really holding that as part of your everyday consciousness. It's not a special Sunday thing. It's just how you relate to life in general is through one deity or another. It doesn't really matter, but it's the love that you have for that deity that really kind of flows. And when we're in love, it's just everywhere. And I think that's, again, another real poverty of our current situation is that it's really people get so focused on the person they love and make that the focus of their love experience or their pet. But it doesn't go too much farther than that. Family, maybe, but that's rife with all sorts of stuff. So it comes and goes. But we're not used to being in love with life, life is a chore. It's difficult. And that's the other thing in the song. She says everything should be
Is
fun
this is?
and abundant.
Do you have this as a recording? Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you
And
share it?
I put it, well, it's probably private. I didn't. I can. Let me see. I have to figure out how to. So, all right. YouTube.
A recent response to an Instagram post that I feel kind of proud of,
Mm.
and I've gotten quite a few likes, which is part of the whole allure, right?
Oh yeah, getting any
But
response is a good thing.
but it was the original post is a video of two horses that just have bonded. I think they're probably horses at a animal sanctuary or other farm, but the two horses the people tell the story that they just bonded immediately and they roll around together. I mean, something that I've learned from Instagram is horses roll around. They're not just they don't just stand in the field, and
Right.
they have amazing personalities. They like to play ball.
Yes, I thought that was amazing. I didn't know that before.
Um, uh, but anyway, so there's these horses. The two male horses. They're rolling around together. They're loving each other. They're always with each other. But somebody's response was, "Oh, I'm gonna paraphrase, but oh, you liberals, um, always trying to make a case for two boys loving each other." And so the mind, I'm assuming it's a guy, went to sex. The
Yeah.
horses having sex. And so my post was something like, well, your post about horses fucking, that says a lot more about you than it does about, these horses. The horses are an example of love that's not about sex.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
so
in Europe, guys hug, are close to each other. And you just can't do that here. If you did that here, people would have conniptions, but it's
they get
really,
conniptions if it's two horses rolling
yeah,
around together.
yeah, yeah. So I put the song in the chat.
Cool.
I'm just astounded by I mean, on YouTube, that's one of the things that I love to do are the little shorts.
Yeah,
There's so many different things. They show animals just having a great old time.
yeah. And
Playing
animals with
objects.
other animals you'd never expect.
Right, there's that.
Yeah,
Friends,
yeah.
like a turtle and a
Chicken.
rabbit
Yeah,
or something, a
One of
chicken.
the one of my favorites is that the video starts with I think a golden retriever, and there's two little feet sticking out of its mouth, and you went like, and the person like gets the dog to open its mouth, a little duck chick walks out. I mean, there's many examples, but so clearly this dog knows how to have something in its mouth without crushing it.
yeah, 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 yeah. And not in a way that disturbs what's in its mouth either. It's not struggling and fearful.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
that deep consciousness of love or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't say human consciousness before. I just said consciousness because
I got that, Robert.
I don't think we have any, main claim.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, although we do have claim to having consciousness, but it's not soul claimed for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love, yeah, I saw a movie. I mean, this was years ago, a little video of a big polar bear walking up to a husky.
Mm,
And they look at
yes,
each other, and suddenly the husky goes down,
right.
in a pounce, a crouch, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Then the bear goes down. Then they start circling each other. And
I've
then
seen
he
this.
ate the, no, No, he didn't eat the dog. I mean,
They
I've
just,
seen that. I
purely,
think I've seen that one.
it was purely in play.
yeah, yeah.
And once they played, I mean, you know, the one didn't devour the other one, at least not in the video we saw.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's such a difference between needing to eat and living.
Mhm. Good point.
And even in, I mean, even in jungles, the when a tiger walks through with his tail up, nobody cares. They don't pay any attention to him. Now, if he's looking for food, it's a whole different thing. But he can be, they can all be together, and the tiger says, I'm not eating, I'm not, so you're fine. And they go, great, okay, no problem. Now, if you're hungry, I'm going to pay attention or I'm going to run. But there's a recognition of that, even among animals, that you can all be together and have other relationships besides that your relationship is really not predicated on he's going to kill me, only when he's hungry. Yeah.
Well, that actually makes some sense about, it's sort of the Native American lore, which is that the animals, when they see that their time is up, I mean, they're about to be eaten, that they give themselves into that. And then that was a common, you
Yeah.
know, element in these stories.
It's called reciprocity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I eat you, you eat me, except for humans who go, you're going to eat me, I'll kill you.
I want them all.
Nothing can eat us. That's not allowed. Yeah.
Except mosquitoes. They didn't get the memo.
Yeah, that's true. They're also really hard to kill.
I don't know, not if you're carrying Dang disease or whatever the
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Um, but see, just in this playful way, we can really parse out a lot of the elements of consciousness that we notice. They amuse us. They give us a feeling of strength.
Life loves life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's enchanting to watch all the different, I think that's why I like ocean life. It's so playful. Everybody's got a different body shape that they've manufactured, and they're just bizarre, you know, because there are no limits. They don't have to do the gravity thing. So they have a lot more fluidity and choices. And it's nothing but hilarious. And moose, I still just crack up when I see a moose.
What's about a moose then?
What
What
kind?
about what about?
They are just so weirdly created. I mean, they've got these really skinny legs and this really big body and this very funny face. I mean, they're just the
And the
strangest creature.
horns. I mean, the horns alone
And
are just.
yeah, they're huge. Yeah, they're just so out of proportion in so many ways. They're just hilariously shaped. They
I
just,
wonder if what you're talking about
tons.
is it's because mooses are it seems like more than other animals, people think it's okay to approach them. I mean,
Really?
there's
Oh,
stories of
no. Oh,
oh, I
yeah.
know that, but
Yeah.
like tourists, like, wherever
Yeah.
I know
Oh, and
Yellowstone or where.
buffalo. And they'll approach buffalo too. I mean, why would you do that?
But I'm just wondering. So I mean, I get the impression. I mean, people are not as afraid of moose as they are mooses as they are bears.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's stories that like there's people will approach. They think they can approach a moose because it's not threatening. Maybe it's because of that funny body, or I'm just kind of wondering if, like as
Well,
you
they're
described this, is it's that funny body makes them not so threatening. but
Yeah.
they move very fast. They're very
Oh, yeah.
dangerous.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. They kill lots of people in Alaska.
And they're, well, I mean, they're
Yeah.
just the weight alone, they're huge animals.
Yeah. Yeah. They're really
And they're
gigantic.
really not afraid of anything. Like they will walk through Fairbanks, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
right through the middle of town. And that's accepted because you can't stop them. I mean, they just walk right through the middle of town in the summertime. I was there, I saw it.
Well,
My
elk,
friend,
yeah.
my friend held me. No, I wasn't going to run up to. They've been around oxen and so forth. You know, I know what old big animals can do, but you know, there's that urge to go up to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they say even cows are quite dangerous because people think of them as sort of stupid and, you know, so not dangerous because they just, but they're very heavy.
Yeah.
They're very strong in order to hold that weight, and people get killed by them. I was
Yeah.
surprised to hear that. Because
Well,
funny story,
is
just
it cows or bulls?
cows.
Huh.
But the funny story. So I went out as a kid. I went out to this field, and there were a lot of cows. I mean, tens of cows, maybe 40, and they all started walking toward me, and I just held my ground, sort of held my hand here, or you know, somehow just sort of receiving them in. And you know how they're shaped. They got huge bellies and this, you know, and a triangular head almost like a rattlesnake, but much bigger. But they all came together till their bellies were against each other. Their heads were then like each other. And it was like a railroad yard, you know, where it's this big quadrant of a semicircle. And they just stood there sniffing.
How close were they?
Well, I mean, within a couple of feet.
Oh God, that's so.
Because I was a kid, it wasn't, I guess, totally smart about it. But to me, it was an experience I'll never forget. It was just incredible because they felt very gentle.
Yeah.
And
And probably you weren't putting out your tail wasn't up like the tiger on a hunt, and they knew that.
Or they could have been thinking food, somebody, people come get herds and that kind of stuff. They get into habits like
Also,
that.
the animal videos of people who go into a cow, herd of cows, elephants, and play music,
Mm,
and and it's pretty extraordinary to see how they respond, and they respond as if like they're sentient beings, like, because they're sentient beings, and but still,
they
it's
act,
still it's unfortunately for us, it's still surprising to see how they respond.
yeah. And that they
So,
do respond, that they seem to be
and
engaged.
plants do as well, which
Yeah.
shows
Yeah.
another way of assessing the interconnection between all of life is to watch
Mhm.
plants with different types of music.
there's one video, and there's a video of a woman playing a guitar for a horse, and the horse puts its head over her shoulder and starts, I guess I would call it playing the guitar with its lips.
Ah, huh.
Maybe because it's having fun making the sound. But I so there's another video of a horse that's um rubs its teeth along the top of a metal gate, and it makes a sound. So somehow
Huh.
this horse realized it could do that, and the people in the video said that it does it all the time. It's always up there rubbing its teeth along rubs the teeth along the metal
Huh.
gate, like a 2-inch diameter tube. And that horse is making music. You'd have to say that it's making music. It's figured out that you could, if he runs his teeth along the metal tube, it makes this vibration,
Yeah.
and he seems to like it.
Huh. That would be interesting. Yeah, because I'm just thinking teeth on that reverberates through your whole body.
Oh yeah, it's right. It's not so he's not. It's not just the sound.
It's a
It's
sensation. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, horses sometimes get into habits. Um, there's a thing called cribbing where they grab hold of their manger and kind of pull with their teeth. And they'll really wear the manger down. Um, and it's a
Grab
sign of
the
boredom.
grab the what? Their mane?
Manger,
Oh, the
that holds their food in
The
front of them.
oh,
stall or the stall,
Or the stall door. Yeah, they'll do the stall door too. Yeah. 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 Then they're just interesting. Um, I used to have horses, and the place where I kept horses and kind of worked to be able to ride horses, they had a white stallion that was dearly loved by the owner. And he would, when you stood by his stall, he would come up and he'd put his head on your shoulder, and you'd think, isn't that really sweet? And then very slowly he'd lift his legs up. So his weight was on you.
was that being sort of ornery or
Yeah, uh-huh. Yes, it was.
And they've certainly also been known to bite in such a situation, especially
Yes. Yeah,
years.
no, and he had that reputation too. Yeah, you had to watch him. Yeah. Yeah, he was kind of, well, they get bored, they just
the
get bored.
the
They,
personalities? There's
yeah, yeah, sitting
there's
in that
also
stall all day is just not fun.
there's also uh, some great videos of horses in England. The Queen's Guard. They sit in one of the palaces on the horse, and in these videos it's portrayed a person who's a disabled person or a person who's whatever whatever handicap,
Physical difficulties.
and the horses identifies with them, and they can be very sweet.
Yeah. Well,
And then
there's
other people who are poking at it, and they cannot be sweet. They'll 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 reach out to bite them, and
yeah. 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 Yeah, well, horse therapy is a business. There are lots of people who do that, and who and leadership training through horses too. I know several people who do that because you can learn a lot from working with the horse. So, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
my friend of mine used to have that kind of a setup. They used to own a stable,
Mm.
had a number of, 10 to 15 horses. She would run camps, like for 3, 4 days for CEOs. I mean,
Yep.
that's the business, she was in terms of advertising. She was top management and decided she wanted to play for a little bit. So she
Yeah.
would have these guys and women show up and do exactly this kind of thing. And she would teach them how to become the one who could come as a child
Yeah.
into the space of the horse. That's what she would teach.
Yeah.
It's exactly, that would be a primary. I mean, there are all kinds of different exercises they would do, including getting on the horse, but
And leading that,
leading.
because that's really interesting. Yeah. How to
leading a
lead.
horse, like how to lead it to.
Yeah.
Yeah. To just move around and walk with it. Yeah. Get it to cheerfully walk with you. Yeah. Yep.
Well, I think these are all examples of a consciousness that's not just us.
And learning to work with that, respecting it for what it is. I mean, I think that's, yeah, we just don't really, you talk about people not being afraid of moose. It's because they don't really respect what the moose is and what it can do, and that it has its own authority,
Yeah.
that it would care about how it's treated.
The concept of dominating nature um, can get tested very fast when a moose is charging you.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are
Yeah.
Well,
Or just
part of
being,
that, they just don't have human, um, well, it's not values, but a human appreciation of differences. Like I remember as a older kid, maybe I was in young 20s, visiting a friend in Vermont who still had horses, still farmed with horses.
Oh,
Oh
And
my God.
so, and oxen. And so I started to pet the ox, and Junior just said, Robert, I wouldn't touch whatever the ox's name was. I wouldn't touch Billy if I were you. He don't know how strong he is. He don't mean to hurt you, but he will. Uh, Junior was quite fantastic with those animals, and he was working them just 20 years ago, at least. I
He
think he
was still
best
plowing
friend,
with horses and
yeah, and
nice.
definitely bringing in the hay with wagons, horse pulled. Yeah, I don't think he
what
owned a
was
tractor.
what was the why was it like hay was better if it's run by horses, or what was there
No,
explanation?
that's a big thing in New England. There are a number of people who just it's a love of the animals, horses or oxen, and so they continue to do it, um, not to make money particularly, but they always would be bringing in the hay, or or plowing for some corn, but that was they had to have other income to do that.
Hmm.
You can't make any money that way anymore, but there's a tremendous association with it. I mean, Junior would never have given up. I mean, he didn't give up his animals for years. He was in his 70s, 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about that relationship that's just really nice, which you don't have with a tractor.
Well, at least you do have some. I mean, I've driven tractors a lot too, some jobs, and you have to have some relationship because
Yeah, that's true.
lug
Yeah. Oh,
nuts
you're
come
sure.
off, and you've got to catch it before the tractor drops, or you're in real trouble unless you have a backhoe on the property. That sort of thing. I mean, and just how to keep them, a
Yeah.
tractor that's already 40 years old. I mean, how to keep it running smoothly. Um,
Yeah. And I mean, I talk to my car, so we do have that relationship, but it's not reciprocal in quite the
but does your car
same way.
listen? That's the thing I want to know.
It doesn't feel quite as reciprocal for sure.
Because our cat definitely doesn't listen.
Well, it's a cat. It's
She's heard though. She lets you know she's heard. She's just
Oh
not
yeah, she's
listening.
very loud. But I mean, what we're doing is we're sort of recycling a lot of terms and phrases that are common in human consciousness, and it's developed out of so much, integration with these animals that we're talking about,
Yeah.
for so long. And we're narrowly beyond that era.
Well, and we're getting back into that era, I do believe. I mean, we're starting to now scientifically. It's so weird. We need science to tell us what we already know. We don't really trust our own beliefs and feelings. It's not good enough. Um, but anybody who's had an animal knows there's a sentient being of any kind, whether it's a lizard or a snake or a bird or a cat, whatever. You know that there's somebody there paying attention to you with its own mind and its own thoughts and own understanding of the world, and that you have to integrate with that in order to have a relationship.
And
Yeah.
some animals are known for it. Like around here, there's a little bird called a phoebe, and they're known for being quite, well, it seems like interested in what humans are doing. Anyway, this one little bird would come and he'd sit on a sunflower leaf, out at on my shoulder, actually, on my shoulder once, and just is watching intently on what I'm doing. So I'm figuring it is linked with food because I'll if I'm shoveling or raking, stuff will be turned up and it'll fly down and pick something up.
Right.
But it's very interesting to watch that and consider the interaction that is between us as that's happening.
Yeah. They do see us as part of nature.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, we don't, but
That's the I mean I Catherine I'm often I always talk about the like the first step towards real sustainable design is think that we're part of nature. With this idea that animals they don't have that problem. They see us as part of nature.
Yeah.
And um boy then that's a good point that I'm gonna be pondering.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's very true. I mean, the Atlanta has little streams running through it, because it's very hilly, so that there are rivulets, everywhere, and all joining to then some larger streams. But all of it's called, well, Carol will know this, water of the state. And so Georgia has
Jurisdiction.
jurisdiction, to a certain number of feet beyond the riparian edge of the stream. It's 25 on each side for Georgia, but then the different cities have, in most of the cities around Atlanta, it's 75 feet on either side up from the riparian edge.
It's a
And
lot.
so none of that is cleared. I mean, people generally don't do anything with it. So it's forest. We have
Right.
avenues all through the city. So we have lots of animals.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
Coyotes, foxes,
Yeah.
deer, and they're in our yards. They take over at night.
Right.
A bunch of possum and raccoon in our backyard here, and not to mention all the rodents of various kinds. And they're still pretty shy of us for sure, but I think it's kind of nice that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
happening.
absolutely.
But they're forced to do it. It wouldn't be their druthers, but they're forced
Right.
to do it because their home forests have all been decimated.
Yeah, and it's too busy during the day with human activity.
Yeah.
It's really
There was
difficult to
there
manage.
was there was a conversation, I think it was on the GRC ag, and maybe it was Cassandra who grew up in Iowa, lives in Pennsylvania. But they was just talking about animals, nature. And I was talking about village homes in Davis about the food forest, and somebody asked but what about the deer problem? And I was stuck. Clearly it was a idea not from California, because in California, I mean certainly in the Central Valley, if you're not in the mountains, we don't have deer problems because we don't have forests. We don't.
Yeah.
And that even if Davis had a a forest of some sort, it's not contiguous. It's 80 miles from any real forest where deer could live, um, which is not what the East Coast is like.
Yeah. 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 Or even Michigan. My father's place had was built on a peat bog. So the developers took out all the peat and made money there. And then water filled up those holes. So they had ponds, which increased the value of the property.
I don't know.
So everybody who bought into that subdivision had at least part of a pond that was part of their property. So people had access to ice skating and swimming anytime they wanted to, if they wanted to maintain it. And so there were lots of animals around. And there was a creek that flowed through the back of my father's property, and into some of the lakes and stuff. So there were a lot of trees at that time and a lot of animals, but then they cut down a lot of the trees, which made it harder for the animals. But you still get the little ones, yeah, the smaller animals that can make it through. Although the birds, we used to have a lot of pheasants, and those seem to have disappeared, and quail, probably because of cats. um, but yeah, we used to feed the pheasants out back. Mm.
I think I've seen some evidences, I mean, written as well as observation of my own, that there's actually more viable forest, real forest where there's trees, undergrowth, all kinds of, I mean, soil has never been tilled, so there's all organisms in the grounds and everything. More of that within the metropolitan limits of of Atlanta, and even within the city itself, than there are some of the surrounding lands that have been totally
Oh,
clear cut and so forth. I mean, or farmed so that they look like they're rural, rural land, fields. But for from the animal's point of view, it's kind of worthless.
Yeah,
There's no food,
yeah,
food desert.
yeah. Well, we farm right up to the edges. There's no hedgerows like there is in England,
Right.
so there's no place for animals to be. Yeah,
But there is definitely a resurgence of wild animals walking through Atlanta at night and living here probably because now the suburbs I mean, go out for miles,
right.
50 miles. So
So I'm wondering if they green as the cities become greener and really pay attention. If the sponge city idea really takes hold and cities are putting back trees and that kind of stuff in more of a forest way, not just planting trees, but really thinking more forest, if we're going to see more animals show up,
yeah,
because we
well,
will increase the habitat.
we are definitely seeing it here in this city.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting that cities would be the place that keeps wildlife alive. It's sort of an interesting thought. Oh, and it kind of fits in with the sponge city thing. It's another way of getting people to pay attention to their soil. So yeah, it works in that regard.
Well, there's a lot of positive movement, and
Yes.
that's more than just ideas. And I think one of the main drives is to shift the orientation so that it's away from beautiful grass, beautiful green all year round to, a city that's really thrives with
Yeah.
the natural.
Beautiful nature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With wildflowers and stuff. So we're trying to go from lawns to meadows
Yeah.
and meadow plants that are flowers and pollinator happy and all that kind of stuff to bring the wildlife back.
I haven't kind of need to go, but Catherine, was that you? You were telling me somebody was talking about this is circling back to this question about Native Americans and killing, animals for food. But and it was specifically about a tribe in Alaska who um eons ago made a deal with the I think the I
Yes. Yes.
the
Yeah.
elk people. That was that
Right.
you telling me about this?
I think so. Yeah. 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 So the deal with the elk was that they would leave the spawning ground where the elk had babies, and then the elk would always provide them with food. And then come in the Western idea of, oh no, we got to drill there, and the uh, horror of the native peoples that they were then being asked to go back on this centuries old promise to the elk herds. And they just, yeah, and the consternation caused.
Probably many centuries.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm guessing 8 to 12,000 years ago.
Yeah. 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 Well, it's a whole thing about relationship, you know? If they're sentient beings, you can have those kinds of relationships and commitments. Yeah.
Anyway, I better get going.
Okay.
So